All right, now that we've gotten into some solving strategies, now let's get into some different things. These are some scenarios that come up that can lead to potential issues. So to start, we're going to jump right into some solving practice. Again, just some more examples for you to look at, and then we'll wrap up the explore. But these are the three problems we did in class today. We picked one or two of them, but let's just review and revisit some good strategies for solving equations. So looking at these is in my class, we preach every day when we're doing this is to make it an easier problem until you're finished. So even if you don't know what's going to happen. So the first thing that I see, I look for things like distributing, combining like terms and things like that. So I'm just going to do one thing first, and I'm going to distribute, and I'm going to keep everything as is and just keep it simple. So 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. And that just made it a little bit simpler. I got rid of some parentheses. The next thing I see is I see an 8 and a 3. I'm going to combine that into 11. Again, I'm just slowly but surely making this into an easier equation, and that easier equation is going to have an easy solution. And we just keep on going. Again, there's a couple ways to think about this. I think about distributing a -1 or just subtracting everything in the brackets. Either way you think of it, if you subtract everything in the brackets, it's -11. If you distribute a -1, it's -11. So either way, you get the same result. And then subtracting a -3 or distributing a negative to a negative is positive. So we get this. And plus 19. I see some like terms. So we have a 3x and a 3x, which is a 6x. And again, you slowly start to see that this equation is becoming simpler and simpler. And as we keep going, now I have variables on both sides. Well, how can I make that a simpler problem? Make it so that that's not the case. So I subtract x, and that will make that not the case on the right side. I no longer have variables on the right side of the equation, which is a good move. And I have constants on both sides of the equation. How can I fix that? Make it not the case. Now, since I have 5x on this side, I would make sure that I have variables on the left side, make sure that only variables are on the left side. So I'm going to add 11 would be a wise move. So now I know that I have, this is 0, so I get 5x equals, and that's going to be 30. And some of you I know are good. You can just write down your solution. If you want to go one step further and divide both sides by 5, you can. Or if you just know that the answer is 6, go for it. That's an option for you. The next question we have, again, lots of stuff going on, but we just have to slowly but surely make this an easier problem. So again, I see a lot of distributing that can happen. So I'm going to distribute this 2 here and make this 6 minus 10x plus 4. I'm going to do something very similar on the right side, and I'm going to distribute a 2 here as well. So I get 6 minus 6x plus 2. Again, just simpler and simpler and simpler. Look for like terms. I'm going to combine this 6 with this 4 and make 10 minus 10x. Whoops. And then I'm going to combine the 6 and the 2 and make that 8 minus 6x. I see some distributing that can happen. I'm going to distribute the 2 as well as this 5. So I'll get 2 times 10, 20 minus 20x equals 40 minus 30x. And again, we have variables on both sides. We have constants on both sides. So somehow find a way to make that not the case. So I'm going to add 30. The reason I chose to add 30x was that's going to make this 0 while making this a positive 10x. And I like to work with positive constant or coefficients, which is usually people have more likelihood of having success with positive coefficients. So if you did the other one, it would have been the same answer. So not a big deal. And now that my variables are on the left, I'm going to make sure that my constants on that side are eliminated. So I have 0. I get 10x equals 20. And some people just know that the answer is 2. But if you just divide by, whoops, that's a little Freud talking. Divide by 10, and we've got x equals 2. So we've got our solution there. And then the final one. This is a big one, and I love this strategy. A lot of people don't like dealing with fractions. So there is one thing you can do to eliminate the fractions, and you can do them one at a time, or you could do them simultaneously, and I'll show you both. So something that you could do especially to eliminate this half. And you can distribute, don't get me wrong, that's not a problem, but you're going to start getting fractions. A lot of people don't like those. So something that I like to do is take an entire equation and multiply both sides by a value. So I'm going to choose to multiply both sides by 2. And the reason being, multiplying both sides by 2, this 2 multiplied by this half is 1. Half of 2 is 1. So that reduces this fraction down into 1. And I no longer even have to include that anymore because 1 times anything is itself. So I actually turned the left side just into 18 minus 5x. Okay, and here's a piece of advice. You can distribute this 2 anywhere. I could distribute it here. I could multiply the 2 by the 1/3. Just because I have it on the page already, I'm just going to do it that way. 1/3 and then have 12 minus 8x. And that's a lot simpler. I've eliminated one of the fractions. And then from there, my next step can be, I want to eliminate that 1/3. It'd be really nice to not have to have that 1/3 in there anymore. So how would we get it done? Well, let's multiply both sides by 3, because 1/3 of 3 is 1. And it's just going to make my numbers just a little bit bigger, but it's totally doable and my fractions are gone. So 3 times 18 is 30 plus 24, so 54. And then minus 15x. And that's going to equal, and the nice part is this 3 times that 1/3, well, that's 1, that reduces. So all I'm left with is 12 minus 8x. And I just made that problem a whole lot easier to solve. So if I just keep going with that same concept, I have variables on both sides. I like to deal with, try to get a positive coefficient, but I'm going to add 15x. Again, that makes this 0, but also makes this positive. If you did it the other way, it's not a big deal. I just think it's a little bit simpler down the road. But now I know exactly what I have to do next. Now that I have my variable on the right, I've got to eliminate the constants from that side. Sorry. And again, some of you just know the answer is 6. If you want to write x equals 6 without showing the division step, I'm okay with that. But some of you, again, like to show all those steps. So divide by 7 and you've got x is 6. And that's just an intro. Again, that was what we've been doing. That's some extra practice. But the point is, these hard problems don't have to be so hard. As long as you just boil it down into a simpler and simpler problem.